gentlemen, Shirley MacLaine.
I have known Elizabeth through 42 birthdays in this town. You can work out that math. She has always been very, very clear that above all, ours is an industry of show business. And with that clarity, she has played the game better than any of the rest of them. She has come up with the biggest sweet smell of success in the fragrance world. This is as important to Elizabeth as everything that's gone before, and for very good reason. Elizabeth's fragrance line is the only successful celebrity franchise in the history of sweet smells. So as one who has watched my friend operate with shrewdness and this incredible clarity, I say with undying admiration, thank you for your starshine, which inspires all of our hopes toward our own longevity. And thank you for proving that capitalism does not have to be cutthroat if it has a person who is at the head of the profit-making, who is loving, fair, and more than decent. Many, many, many happy returns for another 1,000 lifetimes. It will be such fun, I know.
I think her emotional intelligence is really high. And I think she somehow knew underneath, okay, it's time to put aside childish things and become first a teenage actress and then an adult actress. First of all, you know you're perfectly safe on a movie set. You know the crew is there to take care of you. You know the lights will be fixed to camouflage the defects. You know that the director, if you trust him, and they were usually good directors that she worked with, will protect you from being a real asshole. And you know that then you know if you're an actor that's in that kind of A-list echelon, that if you really surrender and get out of your own way, particularly in a close-up, that the audience will see your soul. And she knew that. On some level, I think she had a really exquisite sense of compassion for people who thought they were misfits. That didn't mean they were, but if she thought they felt it, she would be there for them. Now, where that came from, I don't know, because I don't know if she felt like a misfit being so beautiful. It's possible to be so beautiful and so talented and feel like a misfit. She had fallen in love with Richard, and I was asking her about it. And she was sitting at a table drinking champagne. And I think she thought that I disapproved of her going from one man to the other. And she lifted the glass of champagne. And she looked straight into my eyes, and they welled up. Her eyes welled up with tears, and she said, "Richard has taught me how." And the tears spilled over. And she put the glass here so that the tear would fall into the champagne. How to love. I started to cry. I thought, listen, she loves this man, whatever I've heard about him. She had it so poetically described to me so that I would approve. In the roadside cafe, the dancing with the big boobs and the hips, and she was just ready to do it to make him jealous.
You have ugly talents, Martha.
Is that so?
Don't encourage her.
Encourage me.
Go on.
I warned you, don't encourage her.
He warned you. Don't encourage
Her
me.
dramatic ability, we always knew. But that scene in the Roadhouse with the booze and the defiance of her own beauty. I mean, she really let herself be ugly and trampy and bloated and drunk. I want to see Elizabeth Taylor knowing, as we all do, this extraordinary arc of her life and her suffering and her overcoming of suffering and her humor and her beauty and her children and her jewels and her men and her paintings and her food. I would like to see anything that Elizabeth would do. We have a great script. It's called These Old Broads, that Carrie Fisher wrote. For me, for Debbie, for Betty Bacall or Julie Andrews, and Elizabeth. It is the greatest part she'll ever play. And she plays it in bed. So she doesn't have to get up early. She can stay there. And she doesn't have to stay long.
Is it true you're the one that introduced Michael Todd to Elizabeth Taylor?
Well, she was coming over a lot to my place in Malibu. And I think Elizabeth came on the set or something like that. And a couple of the extras wanted me to get them raises and told me in the middle of the scene that if I didn't go to Mike Todd and get them raises, they were going to drop me in the river, the back lot. So I saw Todd up against a tree, against which was draped Marlene Dietrich. And if you remember, he was having an affair with her at the time. I went up to Mike, and it might have been then that I saw Elizabeth, whom I'd known before, and I think I introduced him there. Because there are other scenes that are rattling through my mind where I was in Mike Todd's office and he's calling her on the phone and she's asking for a diamond pin before she'll talk to him, something like that. And then one day, she came to me and she calls me Squirrely. She said, Squirrely, this Mike Todd, I had lunch with him today in the cafeteria at the commissariat Metro. And he says, I'm going to marry him. And she said, I felt like he was the snake and I was the mongoose. Or is it the other way around? I don't know. One of them was a snake and the mongoose, and she says, I believe him. I think it's going to happen. I said, well, what are you going to do? She says, well, I'm going to do Raintree County. And then I don't know. And he followed her to Raintree County, to the location there. And they got married. Now, that really was a match made in heaven. Because, whoa, they were so funny together and so dramatic. She is the most long-lasting star in the firmament. And of course, I know about that cosmic stuff. It was an amazing capacity she had. She was so lovely, so interesting, so compassionate, as though each man that she talked to was the only person on the planet. She's a very down-to-earth, really, if ever the term Mother Earth should apply to anyone, it would be to her. Strange, because she is so glamorous. And on the other side of the polarity, a kind of caretaking housewife. She wouldn't get all dressed up. She likes to just slob around. He walked up to her and said, I'm in love with you, I'm going to marry you, that's all there is to it. She was mesmerized by Todd. She fell in love with him too. He was so flamboyant and his humor would match hers. Very bawdy, very bombastic, very funny. I considered them an ideal pair because they were equal in force of nature. I remember sitting in his office. He was courting her on the telephone. She was on the other end, and I could hear her demanding, cajoling, seducing, that if he wanted her, it would take a diamond and emerald pin. And I watched him melt. I watched him basically in his mind make out the check.
Todd's plane had plummeted into the mountains over New Mexico. His remains were burned beyond recognition.
I heard it on the radio and went right over, and she was in bed, disbelieving, upset with God. She was destroyed. Couldn't move, couldn't get out of bed.
The envelope, please. Elizabeth Taylor.
And in 1961, the film earned the actress her first Academy Award for a movie she loathed.
I don't really know how to express my gratitude.
I think she said she got it for her tracheotomy. Hated the movie, hated her part, said so. Piece of crap movie, but thank you. He had the temerity to humiliate the most beautiful woman in the world, just as Mike did. And her sense of humor sometimes got so bawdy that she thought that was funny.
Her good friend, Rock Hudson, was dying of a mysterious illness called AIDS. Taylor was furious that little was being done to stop a disease that some were calling God's punishment of the gay community.
AIDS knows no prejudice. It strikes men, women, children, and we must strike back. And with your help, we will, and we will win. Thank you.
His death activated her into some kind of movement, which then became a cause.
Playing a show business manager, Elizabeth camped it up alongside Joan Collins, Shirley MacLaine, and even Debbie Reynolds, Taylor's old for the heart of Eddie Fisher.
They both knew that everybody was interested in who they were and what it was going to be like, so they were performing a little bit.
This isn't about the costume. It's about Freddie, isn't it?
Freddie Hunter? Oh, please. I haven't thought about him in ages.
Because if it is, I wanted to remind you, it all happened so long ago when we were so young.
Well, let's just drop it, okay? I forgave you years ago. So let's move on.
Okay.
Great.
Good.
Grand.
Groovy.
She and Debbie had talks about the past, about what went on. When women get together and are honest and open about their feelings, it leaves the men in the dust. I think we all have lived our lives through her. Every time she got a divorce, we thought about the divorce we were engaged in. Every time she fell in love, we felt the same way.
You've had so many wonderful people as part of your life, Elizabeth Taylor being one of them. You're right that you're over funerals, but you did lose her this year, or just a month ago. What did her life and her passing mean to you personally, Shirley?
She was my oldest friend. We met each other. I was 20, she was 22. And we hung out together, and I introduced her to Todd.
Like Todd, yeah.
Because we were doing Around the World in 80 Days. So I watched the negotiations for dinner that Mike would make with Elizabeth. All right, we'll have dinner, and here's one diamond. No, it's going to cost 2 diamonds. And, they were a wonderful, funny couple. Understood they were outrageous. She had a wonderful sense of humor. And, of course, he was the master of Barnum.
Of all the people who played a role in your life, who do you miss the most?
Probably Elizabeth. I miss her, Charlie. We were very good friends. From the time she was 23 and I was 21. We were good buddies. A really wonderful, genuine, very, very talented. And made fun of herself. That was the quality I loved about her the most.
Elizabeth Taylor's recent death provoked many accolades and remembrances. What are your personal and professional memories of her?
She was my oldest friend. Yeah, I met her, I introduced her to Todd. You know, we were on 80 Days together. I was playing that ridiculous Hindu princess. And I used to watch, oh, this is so great. I used to watch the negotiations going on between will he
get her to go to dinner tonight without a diamond. And yet, at the same time, she would come out and visit me in Malibu when I had a little one-room place out there, and I had a dog then, too, who was not housebroken. And we would go to dinner, and of course, every man in the restaurant would fall in love with her, because that was one of her intentions in life, was to make men fall in love with her, which she was very successful at. I remember she came home this one night, and my little dog had pooped on the floor because he wasn't housebroken, and she, Squirrely, give me the paper towel so I can clean it up. She used to call me Squirrely. She was right even then. And she took the paper towel and she got down on her hands and knees and she scooped up all the stuff and washed it and said, I just want to be a housewife. I just want a simple life. Okay, Elizabeth. You know, she had this.
But she's not alone. Isabella Rossellini talks about how her mother also really liked doing housework. Maybe there's something about.
You mean maybe it's true? Are you kidding me? No, Elizabeth, look, she was fabulous at dramatizing her reality.
Now, you appeared in a TV film together. Talk about
A
Small World. It was directed by Carrie Fisher. Of course, we know what happened with her.
She wrote it.
She wrote it? Well, that was, of course, her father later wound up with Liz. And Debbie Reynolds was in that too, right? And you played a woman who was a
Don't
new
even
ager.
mention it. It's a piece of crap.
No, but I just was.